we were invited to go to Bologna to this meeting of philosophers and psychologists. And that's where I was totally bowled over with the ideas they were talking about Marxism and language. And then I actually started thinking about this whole theory that has accompanied me for the rest of my life. I was able to keep on thinking about that for a long time because he was working on it and because I was totally fascinated by it. And so I kept on thinking this theory all the time. Even when I was bringing up my kids and so forth.
È una brava madre, è una persona straordinaria e poi è molto divertente, ha un buon senso dell'umorismo. She taught me to read when I was very, very young, like 2 years old, with the Glendoman method. And I guess she saw that I was very curious.
In fact, it was quite an experience to be trying to figure out the whole issue of language and what language was when I had little kids who were just learning language.
That I really wanted to learn how to read. And so I think the first books that I really wanted to read were Where the Wild Things Are. And I remember opening it up and she reading it for me, and I remember saying, I want to learn how to read this too.
She would make up stories on 3 little girl characters that were similar characters.
My poor mother, I was shy when I was a child, and she used to come with me to ring the doorbells of my friends, asking their mother if they could play with me, which actually gave me, fortunately, some friends in life.
I was taking some courses at a wonderful free feminist university in Rome, the Virginia Woolf Cultural Center, and the professor asked me to teach a couple of her classes. I realized that I was not on the same page as most of the women there. I didn't think that I was really communicating to them what I was thinking. Part of the theory also was that there is material communication, that by giving gifts, you are actually communicating, you're creating a community. So I decided I would try to do that. Because I was not communicating very well verbally, I was going to try to communicate this materially. And that was what the funding was, basically. Decided to come back to the US. I came back over here and the kids didn't come with me.
I was 16 and I had just gotten back from high school, where I had been for 2 years in the US. So I had just gotten back to Italy and I did not want to go back.
My children wouldn't come over here afterwards.
You know, she came over to Texas and we were in Italy, so I really haven't lived it with my mother since I was 14 years old.
They had decided they were going to stay there, and they made a huge stand against me, and I was not strong enough to make them come.
And Jen didn't want to force them, and I think Ferruccio was being very adamant that he wanted them to stay in Italy. And I think that she felt she didn't have a choice.
And I think if I had it to do over again, I would make them come, but I did not have the authority. Nina nana sette venti, la bambina s'addormenti e fa un bel sonno e si sveglia domani a giorno. Nana ieri e le sporte non sono panieri, i panieri non sono le sporte e la vita non è la morte. Thank you all for coming. I want to talk to you about the gift economy, about the reasons why I started the Foundation for a Compassionate Society, some about my pathway. I became a feminist and I developed a philosophy which I call the gift economy, which is based really on gift-giving practices that are spread throughout the world, mainly among indigenous peoples, among societies that are based on matriarchies rather than on the patriarchy. And I say matriarchy because as mothers, we have to satisfy the needs of our children without expecting any return, no kickback. We just have to give and satisfy the need. Whereas in our economics, in our capitalism, you only practice exchange. You give in order to get back. And exchange is ego-oriented. It comes back to the receiver, to the giver. You use the other person's need to your own advantage. By satisfying that need, it comes back to you. And other orientation and the mothering way are disqualified in our society. They're made to seem either, saintly or terribly impractical, profligate, and that sort of thing. So that it's part of misogyny is putting down that nurturing way as anything other than just within the family and within the relation between mother and infant. Instead, I would love to base our whole economics in that way. Men have had mothers too, so they can also access that way within themselves. But I think it's much better if they will follow the leadership of women, because I think women have a clearer approach to it, a better and clearer way of dealing with it. And men have not been brought up to nurture, whereas women have. So I'm very much for the leadership of women. And we have already in our society tried male leadership. And I have to say it really hasn't worked, because we see the end of the planet at hand almost, unless we can really change those values. We see too much suffering. We see millions of people dying of hunger when it's not necessary, when the planet provides enough for everyone. It's just distributed badly. It's distributed in an egotistical way rather than an altruistic, other-oriented way.